Okay, so this is Friday evening after the first day of open practice, official day for the 2024 Vintage Off-Road Nationals. I After today, I can say I'm glad that I came here yesterday to get just a little bit of extra track time in, because even after the 7 hours I had today of open practice, I still couldn't get through everything that I wanted to, and that's just a consequence of me bringing too much stuff. Um, and not being able to down select at home. But in some sense, it's not all bad, because if I don't want to regret having not brought something and having to wait another year to come back and run the something that I didn't bring. So I spent a lot of time today on two-wheel drive buggy. Thankfully, I didn't have to spend too much time with the stadium truck or my four-wheel drive buggies, which meant I could devote more time to figuring out what to do about two-wheel drive buggy. So we'll start with the stadium truck and the four-wheel drive buggies, because those were the quickest for me. For the stadium truck, I just have my RC10 T2. Based on what I was learning throughout the day working on my two-wheel buggies, I knew what changes I needed to make to the stadium truck before I even ran it. So I made those changes, and I had to do like maybe 2 or 3 separate practice runs with it, between some suspension changes and some rear hub carrier movements and some tire changes. And by the end of that, the truck felt pretty good. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty good. I think I won't have any. Hopefully, I won't have any real issues with it tomorrow. There are some pretty fast guys here. I'm not gonna lie. So I really don't know where I'm gonna stand in stadium truck or two-wheel buggy. Um, I don't expect to be first, but maybe I'll make podium. We'll see. But the truck was okay. Um, let's see. Although I did, on a couple of occasions, on one of the corners, I hit the pipe in such a way that one of the front wheels came off. I use these little nylon nuts to hold the front wheels down, and those like stripped out. So then the wheel came off and the bearings came off. That happened like 2 times. But besides that, the truck is fine. So nothing to really complain about there. Kind of more or less uneventful. For four-wheel drive buggy, I have the ZXS Evolution, the Kyosho laser, and the X Factory X5. I also brought my 95 YZ10, just in case. I didn't need it today. I did try to run it at the end of the day, but the track had already closed, so I'm gonna have to wait until tomorrow morning just to play with it. But I don't really plan on using it. The ZXS Evo is freaking perfect. I didn't really have to change anything. I changed the rear roll center based on what I had already learned from the two-wheel drive buggy work that I was doing yesterday and today, and I changed a little bit with the front suspension geometry, and that was it. The car was just like perfect, and I was running clay compound tires, which for today seem to have less grip than super softs. But even despite that, the car was really hooked up. It drives great, corners great, jumps great, it's neutral. It goes exactly where I want it to go. It's just perfect. It was a pleasure to drive that car. And I'm so glad that I finally got it to a point where I don't have to worry about the belt skipping or the wing mount bending or anything like that. Like, I sorted out all those little things. So it's really a joy to drive that car. So I'm really looking forward to the four-wheel drive buggy class. There might be a few other guys out there that are quick. There was a guy running a re-released Yokomo 870 that was kind of keeping up with me with my ZXS Evo. So that has me thinking maybe I need to do something to make it a little faster. Maybe I have to start using traction compound, for example, to get a little bit more grip. Um, or maybe I have to dial the motor up. For most of, actually for I think all of my cars, I'm turning the throttle endpoint down, because it's kind of a loose track, and if you're running the motor at 100%, you're wasting energy, because you're not gonna actually be able to access all that speed, and you're just fighting the motor on corner exit. So I have the motor turned down to somewhere around 80 to 90%. Still plenty quick, but yeah, a little concerning that an 870C can keep up with me with that car. So we'll see what happens on the actual day of tomorrow for qualifying and the main. Let's see. I also tried the X Factory X5 just to see because I have it with me. Why not run it? And that also drives really nice, at least for the layout that they have here now, which, it has jumps, but the jumps aren't big. They're kind of like older style, smaller jumps, kind of rolling jumps, and very nice and flowing. And on a track like that, that X Factory X5 would be a very good car. Um, but I'm going to use the laser tomorrow. The X5 tends to have a lot of belt skipping under braking. I kind of knew that when I was testing the car at home, and I was playing around with the slipper clutch setup and the or settings and the braking endpoint, trying to get that to a point where I'd have enough punch, but also enough braking without the belt skipping too much. But you do notice it, and I remember reading in the X5 manual how the belt skipping um, is a known, let's say, issue or occurrence, but that in the manual they don't claim it to be a real problem. So I could run it tomorrow and be perfectly fine despite the skipping. It's about as fast as the Laser ZXS. I didn't notice any real difference in like my best lap times. Although I would say I think I'm more consistent with the Laser, so that's another reason to run that car. But the X5 is really nice, great car. Um, I think next year it gives me more confidence to bring the double X4 next year, um, for sure. And I may even prefer the double X4 over the X5, because the double X4 won't have those as much belt skipping, even though it has the finer pitch belts, and that's a whole other story. But um, yeah, didn't have to spend too much time on four-wheel drive buggy today. I'm really happy with that. So that meant spending the whole rest of the day on two-wheel drive buggy and trying to figure out what to do. I've been wanting to make the Kyosho Pro X work for the past like 4 years, and each time I run into a different problem, whether it's not cornering enough, or there's not enough grip, or there's this or that, and I just wish that I could like regularly come to the track where Vonet's is held at, so I can spend time developing that car, because there's performance in there somewhere, and I feel like every year I'm leaving something on the table with either that car or the Kyosho Triumph. Generally, the Triumph seems to drive better than the Pro X. I think because it's a bit wider, especially the arms are wider. It just seems like it handles better. But even still, for either of them, they need more work with the shock tuning. They need more work with the suspension geometry, and I just don't have enough time to do that for the day. So once again, I've had to put them aside. Despite them each showing promise in their own way, I just didn't feel like I can be consistent enough with those cars lap to lap. The fastest laps I can put in with those were quick, about as quick as I could do with the TRX3 or the mid motor. Well, actually, the mid motor double X is faster than that. So it's not that it's not fast. It's just I don't feel like I can be as consistent with it. And because of that, I got to put it aside. I brought the TRX3 back out, and based on what I learned from working on the Pro X and the Triumph, I realized why I put the TRX3 away yesterday to begin with. So I had to do more work on the shocks. I had to change the shock oil, go to a much lighter shock oil, limit the rear droop, limit the front droop, all for different reasons, right? So you want less rear droop to make the car more stable on heavy braking and corner entry so it doesn't spin out. And then you want less front droop so that when you're going around large radius turns, the car doesn't push. You're keeping the nose down more. So this kind of goes back to like the stuff I used to work on when I used to run more on like real dirt. And I'm just re-remembering all those little things. So applying all those things to the TRX3 and making a few other little changes, it drives really nice. It does the things that I want the Pro X to do and the Triumph to do, but it does them more consistently. So if I'm going to run a rear motor buggy, it'll be that car for this weekend. I do like it quite a lot, and it's pretty strong. I've gotten into a few little crashes with it, and nothing broke, nothing really popped off. I had some of those issues with the Kyosho cars, so um, I'm still deciding between whether to run that or the mid-motor double X. The mid-motor double X, I got it to a point, and I didn't have to change that much with setup. It was all really about like what kinds of tires I'm going to use. And I only drove it a few times because I don't want to burn through the tires that I have for it, because I didn't bring that many sets of rims and tires for it. But it's very neutral. It jumps great. It leaves you with very little to worry about when you're driving that car. It reminds me a lot of the Kyosho Rampage Pro, the mid-motor car I ran several times at RC Excitement. It's a fantastic car. So if I want to try to do better in the qualifiers and the mains, I'll probably use the mid-motor double X. If I want to see how well I can do with a rear motor buggy this weekend, I'll run the TRX3. And I'm still not fully decided which way I want to go because they're both very nice cars. So tomorrow morning we get about 3 hours or so of open practice. I'm going to spend a little bit of time sort of trying to make my final choice between them, about what I want to do, and then and hopefully nothing breaks, by the way, and then I'll decide. So the down select, I'd say, at least for Saturday, is complete. Right, for stadium truck, there's no down select. I just brought one truck. For four-wheel drive buggy, that's all set. Two-wheel drive, I'm very, very close. And depending on what mood I'm in will determine essentially what decision I make there. I didn't complete my down select for Sunday for the classic class. I didn't run any of my classic cars at all, either today or yesterday. I didn't have enough time because I was spending so much time on two-wheel drive buggy, that I just had no chance at all to run the Madcap or the Dirt Thrasher. I know what kinds of times other people have put in with their Manta Rays. There's actually several people here running either a Manta Ray or, say, a top fourth in the classic four-wheel drive buggy class. And there's a guy with a Manta Ray. Yeah, I think he's running a Manta Ray. He put in a lap time that was like comparable to what some of the really fast two-wheel drive buggy guys were doing. I don't know how he got it to go that fast with a brushed motor. So I'm kind of leaning toward running my Dirt Thrasher just so that I don't lose too badly. But I spent a lot of time on the Madcap, and it's a beautiful looking car. So again, like I'm still kind of torn as to which one of the do I want to be competitive or do I want to have fun. I haven't decided yet which way I want to go for classic class, but I have to run them first. So I don't know if I'll get to do that during the morning open practice because a lot of that time is going to be spent like making sure you're ready for qualifiers and mains for Saturday. Maybe if the track is open after the mains are done, I can do a little bit of that work later in the day. We'll see. And also like a double check on the classic four-wheel drive stuff. So I've provisionally committed to the Cat 2000. I think I'll still go in that direction. But there are a couple of things I wanted to try with the Top Force before I completely put it aside. And as the track grooves up tomorrow, as more rubber gets laid down, maybe things will change. So we'll see. I think that's about all I wanted to mention today. Really busy day. So, okay, what will I do next year differently? I think that for two-wheel buggy, I'll try to bring fewer cars for starters. Maybe leave the Kyoshos at home, the Pro X and the Triumph. Like, okay, every year I try to bring them and try to do well with them, and I have a lot of sentimental value attached to them. And I know that with enough time I can make them fast. But there are other cars that are practically better. I would like to bring at least one chassis with a hydro drive on a low grip surface like this. I think a hydro drive would do really well. I think the Tekin mid-motor RC10 that I built a few years ago, that would probably do really well on this track. With the active link suspension, that would give me the best contact patch on the rear, give me the most rear grip, I should say, throughout cornering and everything else. So that should be quite the weapon on this track. I'm kind of wishing I brought it this year. Um, so I want to try that car next year, and then other two-wheel drive buggies to try next year. If I get my rear motor double X kind of restored, I might bring that. And then let's see. I don't want to end up bringing 4 two-wheel drive buggies again. I'll try to confine it to maybe 2 or 3. And then yeah, we'll see what happens. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.